Welcome to Debt Free in 30, where every week we take 30 minutes and talk to industry experts about debt, money, and personal finance. I'm Doug Hoyes. Today I'm very pleased to welcome to the show one of the most well-known personal finance experts in Canada, Gail Vaz-Oxlade. Gail was the host of 3 popular television shows, Till Debt Do Us Part, Princess, and Money Moron. She is also a very prolific writer, having written for many publications, and she is also the author of, by my count, 12 books. My favorite is Debt Free Forever, a theme near and dear to my heart. Her latest book is also excellent. It's called Money Rules, and it does a great job of debunking some of the rules about money we follow that we should never have followed in the first place. I've got lots of questions for her today about some of those rules. Gail, how are you doing today?
I'm great.
Thanks for being with us. So let's start off with the gossip here. So you were the host of, I think, 3 shows as far as I remember, and I'm sure right now one of those shows is airing on TV somewhere in Canada or around the world. They were big-time productions, watched by lots of people, and yet now you're not doing TV. So what gives? Why aren't you on TV anymore?
Well, the whole time I was making television, I was always fighting to keep the reality in TV. And it's a struggle, it really is, because the message that comes from the network is drum up the drama. And it really doesn't matter how many times you say to them, you know what, the stories are good, the people are interesting, watching the arc of them go from where they are to where they need to be is what it's all about. They still want you to drum up the drama. So when I started getting very specific instructions of things to say and challenges to give, I decided I'd had enough because I just couldn't keep beating my head against that wall any longer. And the straw that broke the camel's back was when I was told on a Wednesday or a Thursday, the whole show would be revamped as of the following Tuesday. And I said, okay, I'm done.
Oh, man.
I'll work out the season because I'm committed. But after that, I'm retiring from television.
So the reality and reality TV was just not reality to you, and you said move on.
You know what? It was on my show, and everybody who worked with me knew that my commitment was to help whichever couple I was working with to come to terms, or individual, to come to terms with what their issues were and find a way to open their eyes, let them smell the coffee, whatever it was. And we did great shows. We made great shows that, you know, what actually happened, because I would not allow for the creation of the reality. And every time I got a director or a producer that said, you know, we can drum this up, I would walk off set, or I would have a hissy fit, or I would scream and yell. And, you know, there were many F-bombs dropped while I was making television. But the key crew that I worked with knew what this was about. It was about me fixing people and them capturing it for TV.
Well, and I mean, as you know, I participated, I think, in all 3 of your shows, and yeah, they were real people. The
Yes.
last one we filmed was at somebody's house, not far from where I'm sitting today. So I think they were great shows. It's too bad you're not on doing those anymore. But I see what you're saying. If it's not representing what you want to do, then it's not worth doing. It's as simple as that. So
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of your rules. Now, the book has 261 rules. We're not going to go through all of them. I've kind of picked out the ones that I either really like or want some further explanation on. So rule number 35, don't obsess about your credit score. Now, I'm a bankruptcy trustee. When people come in to see me, they say, okay, I understand I have to go bankrupt, but I'm really worried about when will I be able to borrow again? How's that going to affect my credit score? You say don't obsess about it. Why not?
Well, first of all, the credit scoring system was initially created not as a credit adjudication system, but as a measure of profitability, as a marketing tool. So the reality is, when the credit score was created, it was meant to measure how profitable you were as a customer. So, for example, you carry your if you only make your minimum payment every month and you carry a balance, you're a more profitable customer. So you score higher on the credit scoring system. Well, that's in direct conflict with a healthy financial life. Okay, to have a healthy financial life, you need to pay your balances off, not focus on the minimum payment. So in reality, there are a whole bunch of things that credit scoring system will measure you on that are actually bad for you. The credit scoring system wants you to have multiple sources of credit, and it wants you to have high limits, and it wants you to only use a portion of those limits. Well, that portion of those limits thing is really to drive up your limits. And so it's working against your best interest. So when I say to people, don't obsess about it, what I mean is don't do everything you think you need to do in order to have the highest possible credit score, because in essence, you will be shooting yourself in the foot if you do.
So don't go out and get 5 credit cards because that'll make your credit score better. Get
That's
however many you need for yourself, and that's it. So, and that's a very interesting perspective on it, because people don't grasp that credit scores are not there for the purpose of the consumer.
No.
They're there for the lender.
Well, and it's to measure profitability. What's really shocking, Doug, is how the credit score is being misused. Because once upon a time, financial institutions used to make their lenders do the full 5 C's of credit in terms of adjudicating credit. And now what's happened is the credit score has taken such hold that credit card companies offer people credit cards based simply on their credit score. And lenders lend based on the credit score, despite the fact they will tell you otherwise. They actually lend on the credit score.
So you would rather go back to the old days where human beings were involved, where the banker actually meets with the person and decides whether they're a good credit risk or not?
Well, and you know that they don't just rely on the credit score. When the first credit scoring systems were used in Canada, because I was one of the people that trained lenders on how to use their own credit scoring system, not the credit scoring system that's being used through Equifax, okay, or TransUnion, for example. When that system was in place, it took a lot of the history of the customer into account when creating a credit score. But it was only one small part of the 5 C's. Now it's grown to such a magnitude that it overshadows things like character and capacity. Oh my Lord, Doug, capacity overshadowed by your credit score.
What does capacity mean?
Capacity is your ability to repay the loan. So because credit scoring gives so much weight to minimum payments, the ultimate payback of the loan in its totality is less important. And so capacity has gone sidestepped for credit scores.
Which is why when we're in an economy where real estate values have gone way up, people can qualify for massive mortgages, even though they probably don't have the capacity to pay them back, especially if things go wrong.
And the fact that we are still using gross incomes to calculate capacity is ridiculous, because nobody gets their gross income. And using gross income creates a false sense of security.
So you think they should be using net income after taking off taxes and your pension contributions and everything else?
Absolutely, because you know what, you look at even teachers who have great incomes. You take off all those deductions off their money and they're living with far less cash in their hands than you would think looking at their gross income.
Well, and unfortunately, I don't think in the near future you or I will get our wish and have bankers actually look at people and make decisions based on the real person. But it's a very interesting perspective on the credit score. Let me ask you about rule number 75. Pay off callable debt first. So this is an interesting one, because when people come in to see me, I say, well, you know what you want to do is pay off your high interest debt first. If you've got a credit card at 20% and a credit card at 10, well, it's the 20% one that you should be paying off first. You'll save a lot more in interest. Now, I realize when you talk about paying callable debt first, you're not talking about comparing one credit card to the other. What are you talking about, and why? What is callable debt? Why should it be paid off first?
Okay, so callable debt is the debt that your financial institution can demand back from you at any time with very little notice. Credit cards fall into that. Lines of credit fall into it. Your mortgage is not callable debt. An installment loan is not callable debt, because you have agreed to make a payment over a specific amount of time. The problem is that when you say pay back your highest cost debt without making it callable debt, is that sometimes people have lines of credit at 3% and mortgages at 4%. And so they want to turn it around. They want to pay off the mortgage first. And I say, no, you can't do that, because the mortgage is safe in terms of the creditor being able to call it. But if the markets go into the tank and financial institutions are feeling strapped, then they can say to you, give me back my $25,000 on your line of credit right now. And you have to come up with the money.
So it's a lot safer to keep your mortgage there because you know it's a fixed contract. It will be there tomorrow, the next day, at least until it's renewable, and probably will be renewed after that. So, yeah, and as more and more people get into lines of credit, which have, I think, replaced credit cards for a lot of people, they don't realize how vulnerable they are. If the bank decides too bad, then you're potentially out of luck.
Well, some people even use lines of credit as an alternative to a mortgage.
Yeah. And if it's not, if there's no fixed term to it,
mortgage callable.
yeah, then you're really in trouble. So very interesting. We're going to take a quick break, and then I'll be right back with Gail Vaz-Oxlade to talk more. This is Debt Free in 30. Welcome back to Debt Free in 30, where every week we take 30 minutes and talk to industry experts about debt, money, and personal finance. Today, my guest is Gail Vaz-Oxlade, radio host, TV star, and author of many books. Now, Gail, you're obviously an entertainer. Your shows were all interesting to watch, but I think even more than that, you would probably describe yourself as an educator, trying to teach people about money. So let's start with the concept of financial literacy. What does it really mean? What are you doing about it? It's a great buzzword. I know the government of Canada now has a financial literacy commissioner. All the banks are pushing it. What is it? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, financial literacy is knowing what you need to know in order to build a rock solid financial foundation. But it's not just about the knowing, it's also about the doing. And the big gap we have had so far is that it's fine to say, yes, I know I should contribute to my RSP, but if I'm not actually contributing to my RSP, then I'm not getting any further ahead. Yes, I know I shouldn't be carrying a balance on my credit card, but if I'm actually carrying a balance on my credit card, then that knowledge component is in direct conflict with the behavior. And so I created a website called mymoneymychoices.com because there was anywhere on the internet, nowhere in a financial institution, nobody had a plan. Everybody was talking about financial literacy, and there was a huge debate about what should be included in financial literacy, but nobody was willing to step up and give a plan. And so what I did was I created the roadmap. And the roadmap starts at step one. You can't get to step two until you do step one. You do step one, then you do step two, and so on all the way through to the end. The idea being that you actually have to take the steps to make your financial foundation firm if you want to be considered financially literate.
So this is a money-making thing for you. What's the cost of this?
There is no money to be made off this. There is no cost. I know.
What are you, nuts there, Gail? I mean, come on.
That's what everybody says. Everybody says, so how are you monetizing this, Gail? And I'm not monetizing it. In fact, this has cost me probably about $20,000 of my own money so far in order to put this program in place in terms of coming up with the structure and having, paying someone to build the website and purchasing the pictures that go on the website and all that other stuff. I am not interested in monetizing this. What I am trying to do is get Canadians, because I can't be everywhere, Doug. And this is the thing, is that everybody wants me. And so what this does is this tells you exactly what I would tell you to do if I showed up at your door. Okay, if I showed up at your door, the first thing I would make you do is do a spending analysis. So the first step in the My Money, My Choices program is to do a spending analysis. I'd make you make a budget. I'd make you make a debt repayment plan. The nice thing about the program is it's structured in such a way that it's a learn one, teach one system. So when I do my spending analysis, not only do I move to the next activity, but then it becomes incumbent on me to find somebody to teach to do a spending analysis. And that's how I hope the program will spread across Canada. I'm just about to implement a fundraising campaign to get some money to do some advertising, because I think that's an important step, and I have only so many resources to commit to this. So that will be my next step.
And it sounds like it's kind of a social network as well, then. Is that it's
certainly, because what it is you can help each other. As long as you can communicate with each other, you can communicate in your church community, you can communicate in your school community, you can communicate at work, you can communicate by Skype. As long as you can find a way to communicate and share information, and this is not a matter of sharing your personal information, which everybody wants nothing to do with. Okay, this is a matter of sharing the skill sets required in order to build your own financial foundation in a much more solid way.
So if someone's listening to this today, they can go to mymoneymychoices.com. That's the website. They can sign up for free. There's no cost for any of this.
That's right.
The first step is going to be the most difficult step. Would you agree with that?
The first level is the killer level. Absolutely. And I say to people, if you have the nuts for this, then you will make it through level 1. If you don't have the chutzpah to do the things in level 1, then you can't go any further because you can't get to level 2 until you do level 1.
So if you can get through level 1, then you're rolling. You're probably going to be able to get through all the rest of it.
You will find the whole process far easier because level 1 is the killer level. It requires that you do a spending analysis. It requires that you create a debt repayment plan, that you make a balanced budget, and that you make your first net worth statement.
And by doing that, this is not a quick fix. This is not, push a button, boom, everything's going to be great. This is going to take some work, but it's going to set you up for the rest of your life.
That's right. And the first level takes some work, and the whole program takes time. There is no race to the finish on this program. There is no, I'm going to get to level 23 before everybody else. That's not the point. You're only measuring yourself against yourself, which is why you do that first net worth statement, because in every 6 months after that, you're going to do another one to see how you're doing in the program. And as you progress through the program, what you're going to see is you're going to see yourself getting stronger and stronger because you're going to be reducing your liabilities, increasing your assets, and putting in place the components you need to keep it all stable. Things like insurance, like an estate plan, like saving for your kids' university costs or college costs. All the pieces you need are built right into this program.
So this is all practical stuff. It's not...
Absolutely. There is no point in esoteric blah, blah, blah about money. If you can't actually go home and do it today, then I don't have any time for it.
And that's really what we need in this country to get our financial literacy levels up to where they need to be, I guess. You said it's knowing, but it's also doing. Those are the two keys.
It's not enough to know. There are lots of people out there that will say things like, what kind of investments should I be in, Gail? And I go, really? Because are you carrying a balance on your credit card? And they say yes. And I go, then you're not supposed to be investing it. The biggest return you will ever get from the next dollar you earn is getting rid of that credit card debt.
Yeah. That's where it all comes down to. So, well, that's fantastic. I appreciate you joining us on this segment. mymoneymychoices.com is where you can find out about what we just talked about. I'm also going to put some links to all your other sites. Thanks very much, Gail.
My pleasure.
This is Debt Free in 30. I'm Doug Hoyes, and it's time for the 30-second recap of what we discussed today. My guest was Gail Vaz-Oxlade, and she started off giving a very candid explanation for why she stopped doing reality TV. She said quite bluntly that there was not enough reality in reality TV. She explained why she does not believe you should obsess about your credit score and why she's not a big fan of some banking practices. When I mentioned financial literacy, she had a good chuckle and then explained that financial literacy is knowing what you need to know when you need to know it to build a rock-solid financial foundation. And of course, it's not just about the knowing, it's about the doing. She then explained that that's why she created mymoneymychoices.com, a website and a community to help you manage your money. When I pressed her on it, she said it's not a money-making thing for her. In fact, it's totally free, and she's already invested $20,000 of her own money to get it going. That's the 30-second recap of what we discussed today. So, what's my take on Gail and her message? I know some people don't like her blunt approach, telling it like it is. Personally, I agree with her basic philosophy. In her book, Money Rules, she says, your money is your responsibility. If you won't take the time to figure out how it works, you shouldn't be surprised when it doesn't work for you. I agree. Your money is your responsibility. And that's why we do this show, to give some practical advice from experts to help you deal with your debt, deal with your personal financial issues, and know how to manage your money. That's our show for today. I want to thank Gail Vaz-Oxlade for her very frank and honest comments. I put her on the spot twice, asking her why she quit reality TV, and asking how much money she'll be making on her new website, and she didn't flinch. She gave honest answers to both questions, which was great. If you're listening to this show on the radio, thanks for listening. Please make a note of the station and time this show is on so you can tune in again next week. If you're listening to this in podcast format, please subscribe on iTunes or whatever other podcast service you use so you can get the show every week. Today's podcast includes bonus content that we didn't have time for on the radio show, so if you want to hear my thoughts on what it's like to appear on reality TV, that's next up for our podcast listeners only. For more information on today's show, you can go to hoys.com to see the show notes, and we encourage you to leave your comments right there on the website. For any of our shows, you can go to hoys.com, that's HOYES.com, click on the blog, go to the podcast link, just search for the word podcast. You can read our show notes, get links to everything we discussed, and even listen to the show again on your computer. That's hoys.com, HOYES.com, for full show notes. And we encourage your comments. We'd love to hear from you. If you've got suggestions for future shows, feel free to leave them right there on the website. Until next week, I'm Doug Hoys. This was Debt Free in 30.
Thanks for listening. This was Debt Free in 30.